Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 40 of the Four Quarters podcast powered by Four Quarters Media. I'm your host, Tyler Bennett, here with you once again. Episode 40 is our CCAA women's basketball spotlight show. Would have been all one show, but again, if you listen to the men's basketball CCAA Cross Canada spotlight show, it turned into a spotlight series because I didn't plan well enough, and After Effects only allows you to make a video up to 3 hours. These 5 interviews you'll hear now far exceed combined 3 hours. So that didn't work out. So we had to adapt on the fly. So each episode will hear this same intro. We'll have its own kind of moment to shine, if you will. 5 coaches from across the CCAA and a player in this one as well. 1 coach from each conference, and then we're joined by a player in Quebec in the RSEQ. But with the men's, we went from east to west, and this one, we're going west to east. Start off in the Pac West, joined by Camosun Chargers women's basketball head coach Justin Thiessen. We looked at his career coaching over in China, how he ended up going to China in the first place, what ultimately led him to coming back to Canada, taking or applying for the Camosun job, ultimately getting the job with the Chargers, and kind of what went into his first season with the Chargers, and hindsight, some things maybe he would do differently, and just looked at the entire vibe around the program and kind of the direction he wants to take that. So really fun chat with Coach Thiessen to kind of get this women's basketball spotlight series / show started. And then in part 2, we work our way back towards the East Coast. We go to the ACAC, joined by Briarcrest College women's basketball head coach Anthony Skeppel. Again, similar kind of chat, looking at his career, again, taking over the program, heading into this season. Kind of what that adjustment's been like for him. Taking over a program in a pandemic is never easy. Kind of what his approach has been to recruiting, getting the girls in the gym, just taking over a program has its own challenges to begin with. And then you add a pandemic on top of it, and you can't recruit and you can't go out and see players live because there's no live games. Kind of the challenges that have come with the pandemic and taking over a program. And we had a great chat on kind of growing the game as well, and the coverage. And that's a theme that you're going to see in all 5 of these interviews, is how we can grow the game better. And especially from a women's basketball standpoint, how can we get the level of respect, admiration, attention to where it deserves to be? And all 6 of the guests, gave fantastic insights, gave fantastic opinions, fantastic suggestions. And Coach Skeppel was no exception. And then in part 3, we head to Ontario. We go to the OCAA. We take a stop at Redeemer, chat with head coach Jesse Van Houwelingen out of the Redeemer Royals. We look at the family culture that himself and assistant coach Pat Ivaroni have tried to instill in the women's basketball program for the Royals. And it's a theme that you see right through the entire university. The entire athletics department breathes one family. And with the hashtag Royal Family, and they embody a family culture from top to bottom, any which direction. Every team is a part of that family. And you tie in the community support that Ancaster brings out on a nightly basis to a home game. That gym is one I think any basketball fan should witness. Hands down. Go see a Redeemer home game. Aesthetically, it won't really do much for you, but when you get in there with a crowd, oh, my goodness. And you'll hear the story again of the reading week game that I was at. That was a packed house. And we looked at kind of the culture that they hope to build. And Coach Van Houwelingen also shares how they've changed their leadership approach within the team. And I found that to be rather interesting. And I think a lot of coaches and players may start to use that in their system to try and maximize the number of players that have a voice in their systems. Then we go to Quebec. Our two-guest episode, a two-guest interview in part 4 of this 5-part series. We talk with head coach Bernard Tanguay and second-year forward Clara Bergeron from the program of Géants du Saint-Jean. I'm not French, so I practiced to say that. I tried to say it as fast as I could so nobody can call me out. Géants du Saint-Jean. Sounds pretty good to me. Probably sounds terrible when I listen back. But the three of us kind of really wanted to put a spotlight on Quebec basketball and the CEGEP system and kind of how that differentiates itself from high school basketball around the country and how it better prepares you almost for making the jump to U Sports or NCAA institutions, because you do come out as a bit of an older student athlete, a bit more mature. You've had the independence of going to a CEGEP system. So it was interesting to hear more about kind of the dynamic, what goes into playing and attending a CEGEP program from both a coaching perspective, from Coach Tanguay, who's been with the program now 18 seasons, and Clara Bergeron, who is in her second, but is being heavily recruited by almost a dozen NCAA schools. And it was interesting to hear from both Tanguay and Bergeron of how the pandemic has forced them to adapt, how they recruit and are recruited. So that was fun as well, just to hear how they've had to adapt and adjust on the fly, if you will. And then we end this CCAA Women's Basketball Cross Canada Spotlight Series in the ACAA. Chat with Mount Saint Vincent Mystics head coach Mark Forward. Again, shining a spotlight on the women's game. He has seen it all at the Mount. He's been a part of the men's program. He's been a part of the women's program. He has seen success as a player and as a coach. So we just really looked at his experiences, and whether he liked it or not, I don't know, because a lot of coaches don't like the spotlight so much. I put it on him a little bit to understand more of who Coach Forward is as a person, how his coaching philosophy has adapted over the years. He touched on the impact that Derek McDermott has had on his career and the program. Just all in all, really interesting chat. And we tried to get some of the keys to the sustained success of the Mystics women's basketball program. He didn't give them all out. You had to keep some obviously close to your heart. You don't want to give everything away, what makes you a winning program. But he gave us some good insight into what's allowed that program to be as successful as they have been in the ACAA. So whether you're on part 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 right now, the interview that's coming ahead is going to be fantastic. I think you're gonna learn a lot about the coaches, their programs, women's basketball as a whole, and you're going to get some fantastic ideas at the end of each one on how to really grow the game and how we can all kind of work together to get that level of coverage, attention, respect, not only around CCAA and U Sports, but around women's basketball as a whole. And that was the focus of this. So with all of that said, get set for now the interview with myself and whoever is scrolling along the subject line of this episode that you've clicked on. And hopefully you enjoy it. Cheers. All right. So as we wrap up our CCAA women's basketball spotlight show, we end ourselves on the East Coast in the ACAA, joined by Mount Saint Vincent University Mystics women's basketball head coach and athletics officer, Mark Forward. Coach, I want to thank you again for doing this, taking time out of your day. Given everything that's come up the last few days, how are things with you and the family and everybody out on the East Coast?
Well, thanks for having us. First of all, anytime we can support your media podcast, we're all for it. So appreciate the invite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a pretty hectic couple of days and week, with our university and also with the community down here. So, sports has been put on hold again for a couple of weeks to see if we can short circuit our COVID issues. And of course, we've been anxiously awaiting whether or not we get to play at all. First of all, it was in the fall, and then it was not in the fall. Then it was in the winter semester, and that's looking less and less like it's going to happen. But the official, I guess, announcements are coming out through U Sport, the AUS conference, today or tomorrow, and then I think the ACAA is sending out a media release on December 2nd. So, and they're not going to be much different. They just can't. So,
right.
But three kids at home, one playing university ball, one playing high school, two playing high school, and they all got shut down yesterday. So they're pretty bummed. But
right.
It is what it is. We all have a social contract we got to live up to. So,
right.
It's just tough for the young kids to kind of get their head around it.
Right. And like we said coming on too, like it's the people. I think that's what kind of controls this. There's been a lot of restrictions come out in Alberta and the out east as well, and kind of just to try to get this under wraps. And I don't really know how we can unless people have that buy-in. And nobody, obviously people do understand it to a sense, but then there's others that just, for whatever reason, don't get it or can't wrap their head around the significance, the importance of doing your part, staying inside, wearing a mask, whatever it is. It's that old saying, like, some people ruin it for everybody. And you see it now with the cases going up all over. And now we have to pay the unfortunate price of having things shut down again.
Yeah, we have a huge university population in Halifax, and in particular, Halifax and surrounding areas have been put on a bit of a lockdown as of tonight, I believe. And it's tough because you don't want to target any particular person, group, whatever, but they seem to be targeting that young 19, 35 age group. And so they've shut the bars down. They shut the restaurants down for a couple of weeks. We'll see how it goes. I'm pretty optimistic that, we can rally and get this thing back under control, because we did a good job after our first phase went through. So we were fortunate enough to have a few months where, life was fairly normal.
Right.
So, I think we can get back there in time for the holidays, so we can expand our bubble to more than 5. They cut it from 10 to 5 in a house. So I'm optimistic, I guess.
Right. And because when COVID first hit and everything kind of went off the rails, the East Coast kind of did, I think, probably the best in Canada. They had their own little travel bubble. And if you come in, you're quarantined for 14 days and you were able to, like you said, see life kind of get back to normal a little bit. Like there were 5-on-5, full contact, scrimmages. AUS had Acadia basketball on the weekend, live stream their inter-squad games, and then 48 hours later, 72 hours later, it's no longer a possibility. And I mean, you've been able to do it once before. Hopefully, kind of 2 weeks, people see the significance, see the importance of doing your part and what that can do for your normal reality. And with Christmas right around the corner, I think even with the new restrictions, it's going to be tough to try and convince people to not see their family for the holidays. I think people are going to kind of loosen up a bit on their own kind of restrictions and kind of start to push that boundary a little more because they want to see people over the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for that. That's for sure. Especially students who have been away for
Right.
a few
That
months
too.
and they're going outside of the original bubble, and then are they going to come back with no games? And
Right.
the parents going to spend the money on residents, and for what? For maybe some exhibition games, maybe if things
Right.
are under control. I mean, it's the impact is not just the next 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
for the university students and sport in general. I think
Mm-hmm.
in January after Christmas. I mean, based on what the numbers are doing, like I said, some kids might not even come back. Some kids may just say, you know what, I'm going to let my body rest up and let these bumps and bruises heal. And we'll see you maybe in September or late
Right.
spring if there's a vaccine out there. And so, you just have to be ready to accept
Mm-hmm.
all the decisions that are made by, everything from the government to the universities down to the student. And I think,
Yeah.
if you have an open mind and can try to put yourself in their position and understand what their decision is, then you'll be fine. You'll get through it. You just try not to get too frustrated because a lot
Yeah.
of things are out of your control.
You just got to be flexible, take it day by
Mm,
day, because again, everything 24 hours is going to change, and you just got to kind of even less than 24 hours. It seems like
yeah,
every hour something else is coming out or updates here, this is happening. But as long as you can stay flexible, there's a lot of variables that are always moving. You can't really plan more than a day ahead, and
yeah.
you just kind of take life as it comes and hope hope for the best. Just buckle
Hmm.
up, hold on for dear life, and hope that normal comes back in whatever form it's going to be when this is kind of uh, all said and done.
Yeah, you hear the word pivot all the time, and in basketball, we want to get back to that pivot as
Right.
opposed to pivoting your lifestyle every day. So
Mm-hmm.
that's our goal.
I'm sick of pivoting my life around what government
Yeah,
restrictions say and a virus, and it's just like the basketball pivots are the only pivots I want to
yeah,
see for a long time after this is back to where we can get back to those pivots for sure.
exactly.
um, I want to kind of talk about your career a little bit. I know we've talked before, not one for maybe the spotlight essentially, but I want to kind of put a bit on you to start, if that's okay.
Sure.
Um, because you've been with the program or the university for some time. So you've kind of seen it and grow and develop over the years. You started out as a player on the men's program. You had 2 conference championships to your name, a CCAA All-Canadian, and 3 All-Stars. So quite the player yourself. Um, First off, kind of why was Mount Saint Vincent for you when you first committed to university?
Sort of a roundabout way that I got to the Mount. I played for a high school about an hour and a half away from the city, and
Okay.
uh, at that time, we had a very good basketball team, and
Mm-hmm.
several of my teammates were being recruited from U Sport to ACAA to CCAA,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't. I was kind of a late bloomer, so even in my
Okay.
grade 12 year, I was still fairly small, and I would say slow and not very skilled. So I didn't have
Okay.
a lot of hopes of being recruited, I guess. And
Right.
even though I put myself out there, it really didn't sort of just naturally happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just there were so many players on a team that got so much attention. It was kind of in the shadows of those players. And all due
Right.
respect, they were incredible basketball players and went on to have great careers.
Right.
Some of which I ended up playing against, which was kind of fun. But
Okay.
so I ended up going to St. Mary's, and then at that point, I ended up playing in a spring league at
Mm-hmm.
Mount Saint Vincent, which the coach there at the time, Lou Gannon,
Mm-hmm.
had chatted with me and talked about maybe coming out for the team the next year. They were a young team in a sense of they really weren't a competitive team. They were more of
Okay.
a postgraduate studies, and they had some people coming for BED. So
Right.
they were there for different reasons. So
Okay.
I think Lou was really trying to establish a good team there. And then, at that time, my sister was also a student at Mount St. Vincent. So
Okay.
the university has a nice feature that not many have, and it's if you have a family member come, you get 50% off your tuition. So
Oh,
that was appealing. So
okay.
I ended up transferring from St. Mary's to Mount St. Vincent. Didn't do very well at St. Mary's either. So that was another incentive to sort
Okay.
of try something different, a little smaller university. And the basketball opportunity obviously brought me in.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Gannon, he only lasted for about a year. And then Coach Plato came in, the current men's coach at Dalhousie. And he brought in a really great recruiting team or players the following year. And then from that point on, we just started to compete at a different level for the ACAA and had a great career there. And lots of opportunities to get to the national championships. And I think the year after I finished playing, that year they kind of peaked and ended up winning a bronze medal in Alberta, which was fun to be part of, but I wish I could have been playing. But I think that year with prior to Rick coming was one of those years where I wish I could have had it back, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So
right. Yeah. Hindsight's always kind of 2020, but so what I take from that is you said you were a late bloomer, you were a little bit slower, not as skilled and small, and you still ended up with an All-Canadian, 3 All-Stars, and 2 league championships. So for any kid out there who feels like they are slow, not as skilled, small, you can potentially turn into a 3-time All-Star and All-Canadian to boot.
Well, I would like to add that I had a friend of mine that I worked with. His name is Richard DeWolf, and he grew up in the Community Y program in Halifax, and which is an incredible program, and just generated so many excellent basketball players until still to this day. They're kind of the cream of the crop down here. Yeah. Players like Augie Jones, who was the coach of St. FX women and played for St. FX. Sean Mantley. I mean, I can go on and on and on. We could have a podcast just on the talent that's come out of that program. And he used to take me down to the Community Y on Sunday mornings. And again, slow, not very big, not a very great shooter. Like, I just didn't have a lot of the skills, but he introduced me to a game of basketball that I thought I knew, but I didn't. And I wasn't that good that if 10 people showed up or 15 people showed up and I was the 16th, I wasn't playing. If I was the 11th, I wasn't playing no matter what. So I would sit there and go down there early Sunday morning, 9 till noon, and just hope that only 9 showed up so that I'd be the 10th, and hopefully they would put me on the floor. And it happened a lot. And then, you just got to find a way to get some respect slowly and surely gain some respect so that, when you showed up there, you were picked and you would play. And that had a lot to do with my development. It taught me how to play the game at a very fast pace and a very up-tempo style. And, people would be on you if you messed up something. If the game was to 7 and you took that game winner and you didn't hit it, you were going to hear it more from your players, not the players on the other side. But so it kind of put a little sandpaper in my game. And then I brought that back to the Mount with Rick and watching him in the spring leagues and stuff like that. So, my friend Richie, I have to give him his proper dues on that one. He was the one that dragged me there every Sunday. And like I said, some mornings I sat there for 3 hours and never played. But it paid off, I think, at the end. And Coach Plato, I mean, he was a hard ass coach to play for. And, you made sure you had to bring it every practice and game. So, those things all kind of built your, who you are as a player, and ultimately a coach.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids now, especially, could use a bit more of that sandpaper on their skin. Take the bumps if you go to a gym for 3 hours and don't play. Kind of use that to fuel kind of the work ethic, the motivation to keep coming back and earn the respect and make them put you in a position to succeed and not crumble. It would have been easy to kind of just be like first 2 weeks or whatever you're not playing, just to kind of give up and not come back. But I think it's a testament to the drive and will and want to be successful that you keep coming back in the hopes that they only 9 show up, so you can be the 10th on the floor and maybe get a chance here and there.
Yeah, I mean, that and the fact, I mean, I grew up in a big family. I had 3 older brothers that, could put a beating on me on any given day. So they made me a bit tougher than maybe in a smaller family. I don't know. But
Right.
I think, like I said, all those things kind of add up to who you become as a person and a player.
Yep.
And I've been fortunate. I've been put in those positions to be able to take advantage of them. And it's just a matter of whether you want to, like you said, just stick to it
Right.
and just know there's going to be good days and bad days, and just grow to love the game so much that you just just ready to go when they call your name. And so that was instilled in me early, but you also have to have the opportunities as well.
I'm an only child, so I never had the people to beat up on you. And looking back because I played hockey growing up, never played a single minute of organized basketball in my life. It was always hockey, and now I look back and I see like why my dad, who was my coach, always got on me for not being as physical as I should.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't around it. I just kind of could walk around the house and not have to be on edge that someone bigger than me is going to come attack me at any given moment. So now that you bring that up, I kind of see why he got on me so often, and maybe why I turned out to be a bit more of a softer kid than he may have hoped. So it's all coming to me now. I get a deeper understanding for all of this. So after your playing career ended, you kind of made the transition to coaching. Was coaching something you always wanted to do, or did that kind of opportunity present itself and you think, why not take it, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, as a player, I mean, you're just so sort of wrapped up in eligibility and how many years you got left, and driving to kind of put another banner up on the wall, and hanging out with your buddies, and the next thing you know, it's like, wow, I'm graduating, now what? And I think Coach Plato was very kind to me to bring me onto the staff afterwards. I mean, I knew all the players, I knew his system.
Right.
I could be the good cop early, and he could still be the bad cop and be that go-between. And Rick has his ways of coaching, and he's taught me a lot of how to be prepared and over prepared, like prepare for everything, and how to demand what you want from your players in a way that they're still sort of enjoying their time while they're there. And so I was really lucky that transition was already kind of presented to me. I didn't have to go find something to do as far as coaching goes. And so, so we went from there. It was a quick 2 years, and this opportunity opened up in the ACAA. Back then, at the time, it was Tons, the Technical University of Nova Scotia. They were looking for a head coach for their men's program. And so interviewed for that, was lucky to get that, spent 5 years there. It was a tough spot because you couldn't really recruit, and because it was a post-grad study, and they had some rules around how they could play in the league. But there was no recruiting into it. So it's kind of like, here's my cards, I had to play them, and some years were good and some years weren't. And I didn't really want that. I wanted a more traditional kind of coaching position. But anyway, went back to the Mount and spent several years again with Rick, and still learning, and then at that point, that Derek passed away. That was when our athletic director, June Lumsden, called me into the office and basically said, "You're the only one that can do this. You've known these girls because you've been traveling with them for the last 3-4 years, and would you consider taking the job on the female side?" And so I was scared out of my mind to become a head coach of a women's program, and also just the pressure of taking, 5 seniors that came back to play their senior 5th year in Derek's honor. It was beyond stressful, but I don't know. It's something just made me say, like, this is your opportunity. The door's open, go get it.
Yeah.
That's why I am where I am right now, my 11th season, or somewhat of a season.
Yeah, I was going to say, 11th year. And then, I mean, you 2018-19 CCAA Coach of the Year. You've had 6 conference coach of the years between Daltech and the Mount. There's been a slew of ACAA medals and CCAA medals over the years. It seems like it was it turned out to be the right move, even though you were nervous as all can be on day one, I'm sure. Did you ever see it kind of playing out this way? Or were you just kind of hanging on for dear life at the start and see how it played out?
Well, I would probably say early on, more to your latter point, just sort of hanging on for dear life and just hoping that things worked out for these kids that came back, that were really playing under Derek's culture. And, just really just trying to provide support with them any way we could. But, 3 or 4 years into that, you started to realize that, I guess that it was really important to put my stamp on the program, that I'm not Derek, I'm not Rick. I had to find my way and had to find my way coaching another gender. And so it took a few years to sort of settle into that. And, the things that come along the way, like the championships and the personal awards, that is so much to do with the players and your coaching staff, your athletic director. You're just kind of controlling all those moving parts and trying to make sense of it all. So, it's been really rewarding. I truly am blessed when I wake up and go, I get to go to the gym. I get to get paid to do something that I absolutely love. And I still love it every day.
The awards are just kind of like the byproduct of everything else. The way the gym sessions, the workouts, the road trips, the exhibition games, the regular season, the team, the list goes on and on. The awards are all just kind of an end result of the fun and the enjoyment that you have doing kind of what you love. And as long as you enjoy it, I think that's really all that matters. And you're helping these young women, which we'll get into shortly as well, kind of start to forge their own path in basketball, life after university, or whatever comes their way. So, they're kind of I'm guessing they're probably team awards more than they are individual accolades.
Yeah, I think the team's always happy for when you win those things as a coach, and it is a moment where you're proud of, because you know how much work goes into it, but you also know how much it requires everybody around you to be pulling for you and believing in what you're doing and saying and trust you, and you care about them. And I have to say, I'm so fortunate. I have such a great coaching staff with me. Like, I can't even remember now, but about 6 years ago, we added a gentleman who used to coach for the men's team, Ken Reardon. His son played for the men's team as well. When he came over, he's kind of like, we call him Yoda. He's kind of like that guy that, what he did for me was he allowed me to slow the game down in my head. And allowed me to see the game at a pace that I could coach it at, and understand, just changes in things you had to make calls on while the game is going on. Teaching valuing the fundamentals that have to be, spent every practice and every day, and making time for them, and questioning every aspect of our program that we had, and drills, and why we're doing them. And, does this fit into our offensive philosophies? Does this fit into our defensive philosophy? So, again, all these people that had an influence on your game as a player and as a coach up to that point matter. They matter, because you wouldn't be in those situations if they didn't. And then the minute you think you know everything, it's wrong. You're doing yourself a disservice. And when Kenny came along, I owe him a lot of credit, because he made me very uncomfortable and very insecure. But at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I can either accept this or not accept this. And so, and then, you bring in the Marias and the Kates,
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a new assistant coach, Marcus. They all bring things to the table, and they're not like we always say, well, I don't want you to be hood ornaments. I want you to be involved. And so when you have that team coming into the gym every day,
Mm-hmm.
players see that you have a good supporting cast to help them become better players. And so that's what's fun. And, we always reference the climb, it's about the climb. And when you get to the top, it's like, okay, now we're there. Now, how do we stay there? And so all these things are so fun along the way, the ups and downs, and we've had a lot of adversity too, like any other program does. So, getting through those, but there's been so many great people around me. Great people.
And I think too, like a lot of the assistant coaches, the team managers, whoever else is on the staff and the bench, I don't think they get nearly the amount of recognition they deserve, because when coach awards come out, it's head coach, and they don't really, the awards themselves don't really recognize that support system and kind of what your Kens and your Marias and your Kates and your Marcuses do to kind of push your level of learning, push your understanding, push why you do things the way you do. And you really only see the head coach's name, and it's not to discredit any head coach, because they are at the end of the day making the final decisions, but there are a lot of people that have an impact on those decisions. And I think every team, based on how you describe that, could benefit from a Yoda like Ken on their staff, just to kind of push your boundaries, make you uncomfortable. And because like you said, once you think you know everything, it's gonna slap you right in the face, and it's gonna be like, no, you don't. And
it's time to leave the game then.
And then that decline is going to be a lot quicker than it would be if you were uncomfortable and continually learning. And I think that applies to whatever job it is, coaching, anything in life. As soon as you think you know it all, you're done.
Yeah. I mean, it is a combination of a lot of things. Even our athletic director. I mean, you have to have an athletic director that is committed to winning and helping you do what it takes to win and supporting you. And our athletic director is June Lumsden. She's like 36 years on the job. She'll kill me that I said that, but it's true. You have somebody on the job that has that history and is committed to winning. Like, you just got a lot of things rolling in the same direction, and that's what it takes to have a good program. So
off of that, then I'm going to talk about the program a little bit, because I've said this before with kind of the AUS, and I think the ACAA is in the same boat. The East Coast doesn't really get the level of kind of attention and I think respect kind of nationally overall from top to bottom. And the Mystics program has been very successful in the last handful of seasons, especially with kind of ACAA titles, perfect regular season, CCAA appearances. The list kind of goes on and on. Without giving kind of too much away in terms of your secrets, what's been kind of some of the keys to this sustained success of the program over the last few years, especially?
Well, I mean, I speak to a little bit of it already, but like I said, you got to have an athletic director that's committed to winning and supporting you. But it really, it does come down to the players. And the players you're bringing into your program, knowing what you want, knowing which players will be successful in your program, and then just spending the time with them to, educate them on what it's going to take and how we're going to get there, and showing them their blueprints of what it is that has been successful in the past, have their buy-in. I mean, and I think we've had programs in our conference that have had nice runs. The Mount's obviously been one of them, but St. Thomas has had its run, and coached by Fred, and he's a great coach, and he runs a really solid program. Holland College has had their runs, and we're there. And I think one of misconception is, if you look at the NCAA tournament in the States, I mean, you got these teams sitting around on nights where they're going to the dance, and just getting to the dance is a major step for a program down there.
Right.
And I think we tend to put so much onus on, well, we didn't medal or we didn't finish high or whatever. But when you're one of 8 teams going to the conference or the national championships, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. So, and, in our population base compared to, playing the teams out of Quebec and Ontario and out West, I mean, it's a fraction of what they have as far as talent pool goes. And on top of that, you got limitations with recruiting money and recruiting options to get players in there. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm very comfortable that our conference has done and showed really well at the national level. I don't get too hung up on the medals, although I'd love to win. I definitely would love to win gold every year, but you have to also be somewhat realistic. But it's we're getting there. I mean, I think the gap has closed quite a bit since my playing days. I can tell you that. I mean, it's on both the men and the women. So, it's a tournament. It was one game and you move on, and one game you don't. And so, you have to get out of your conference a little bit too early in the year, so you get a sense of what the talent level is out there, and so you're comfortable when you meet them. And obviously, if you go there back to back to back or whatever it is that you do, you get more and more comfortable. Those players are more and more comfortable with the experience. So it's all those things. But I do feel like the gap is closed quite a bit, and I don't think we're the doormat of any national championships anymore.
Right. And too, like with being one of 8 teams to make nationals in a league that has 60, 61, 62 teams overall, I mean, you're in a small percentage of teams, and just making the dance alone, whether you finish first or whether you finish 8th, is an accomplishment in of itself. And I mean, to be a provincial champion or a provincial silver medalist, that's an accomplishment in of itself too. To be able to make it to that level is something to hang your hat on. And I think we need to kind of celebrate that a bit more, and not just look at, you didn't medal, okay, well, it's a failed attempt. Well, no, you finished high enough in your league, first or second, to earn a spot at nationals. You take that, you pride yourself on it, and again, as you gain experience, the first time you're going to be there, it's going to be different than playing a league game over and over again. But then you get back a second time, you've been there, you've seen what it takes to compete against the nationals best, you're going to be a little better. And you don't usually see someone make nationals once and win. You just got to you got to kind of take your accomplishments as it comes and celebrate it, and win or lose, making it to the final 8, like you said, is an achievement in of itself.
And I think it's really important that when you do and you're able to get a squad to the national tournament, that you make time to enjoy that experience, not just the playing, because the playing is the ultimate, but what's so rewarding as a coach watching your players play at that level is that they're playing their absolute best. Like they're at the peak of their career, playing their absolute best, and even surprise you to some degree how they're playing. But also, just outside of that, is to bring it all in and absorb it, and meet some players off the new team, meet the coaching staffs, and take in the environment around the gym, and whatever province you're in and all that. It's all part of it. It's all part of the fun. And what we've done when we've gone there is we've made an effort of, hey, we're out here to play, number one, but also we're out here to enjoy ourselves. And I think that allows you to have that environment when you come back the next season to say, hey, I want to do that again. That was a lot of fun. And you don't really think about, where you finish. It's just, I want to get back there. And so you create this environment of wanting to win. So, and again, that's part of the culture.
Yeah. And nationals in themselves are just they're just a spectacle, and it is fun, regardless of if you go 0-3 or you win the national championship. chances are for some of these athletes, they're seeing a different part of the country that they would have never otherwise
Exactly.
seen, and they're taking in different things, and they're doing this as a group, as a family, as a team. You get to experience this all together. And again, when you have fun, you want to get back there a second time. And then for the new athletes that come in every year, they hear about how fun it was. They hear about the experiences. Now they want to be a part of it. So they're going to want to do more to help get the team back there. And it's just kind of radiates down the roster. And as long as you focus on, obviously you're there to, like you said, to play basketball and win games, but as long as you have fun at the same time, the results are going to come, and you want to enjoy it, because for some of them it's probably once in a lifetime experience to get to nationals, because again, it's not easy to get there, and playoff basketball is what winning you're or losing you're done essentially in conference tournament. You want to do well and get there, so you're going to have that buy-in, and people hear about the fun and they're going to want to do whatever they can to get back.
Well, and the thing is, what I like about it as well is that the following years that when you come back, the players that have experienced that environment, they can come back into the gym and push one another to know what it takes to play at that level. And I also think that they push the younger players that don't know what it takes to get to that level. So it just keeps breeding that whole sort of, again, that environment of wanting to get back there and experiencing that and winning. We want to win. We want to get back there. So obviously you've kind of touched on the culture a bit and everything else, kind of what goes into the program. For those who may not know much about what the Mount is about, in your opinion or words, like what defines Mount Mystics basketball, or who is the program? If someone were to ask from Ontario or out west who didn't know much about it, what would you say to them defines kind of your program and the institution as a whole? Well, that's a big question, but I think for us, we want to make sure that everything we do with a championship mentality.
Okay.
And so we want to start by recruiting the right players. We want to start to instill a work ethic that builds on the one that they have now. Okay. And we want to make sure that they're striving for excellence and that they're supporting one another, so that the environment is safe and fun and challenging and pushing them outside their comfort zones, and accepting heavy coaching. And at the end of the day, you want to have a squad that understands they put the work in to go out and feel confident that they know how to win, what it takes to win, but also humble enough to know that if they don't do these things, they're going to get beat. And so it's preparation, it's confidence, and it's also being humble. When we're recruiting kids, it's a lot about, what kind of work ethic they have. So, I think you had Len Harvey on here, the head coach of the women's team at Acadia maybe a month ago, and he talked a lot about balancing, when you're recruiting, balancing the skill and the intangibles. When you're recruiting a player, like a skilled player might be really highly skilled, but may not fit into your culture. And then there's the whole culture aspect of, they're really going to fit in my culture, but their skill isn't great. So, you're kind of striking a balance when you're recruiting those types of kids, but, getting those right kids in there, and then just knowing that you're working with them and that they can accept the kind of coaching that you're going to give them. Right. And also, when you're watching them, how are they dealing with the referees? How are they dealing with a bad call? How are they handling, interactions with their coaches, the refs, the scores table, their teammates, and their body language? I mean, so, you're bringing all those things in to, really establish a team that is gritty, hardworking, and if you don't show up against them, you're going to get beat. Right. And if we don't show up against them, we're going to get beat.
Right. I think looking, like you said, a lot of those things like body language, work ethic, how they fit into the culture, I think those are, at least in my opinion, probably the more important pieces than the skills, because you can teach the skills, you can teach the X's and O's, you can teach the plays, whatever else. You can't really teach a work ethic. You can't really teach a person's attitude. And they could have all the skill in the world, but if they're a cancer or a toxic kind of addition to the locker room, that kind of negates all the talent they have, because they're not making everyone else around them better. They're just kind of bringing everyone else down. And I think I'd much rather have someone who is, maybe, I'm going to use you as an example, and I apologize, maybe someone who is kind of a bit like a step slower, maybe a bit smaller, but has that drive and want to get better, and is on the bench up cheering regardless of if they're playing 30 minutes or 3, because you can teach them all the skills you want, but you can't change their 18 years of mindset of, you know what, I'm better than everybody else, everything should be handed to me. I'd much rather have someone who wants to work hard than someone who just expected to be given to them.
Yeah, I mean, so many points you're making are true, and I think, like, well, I'm a big team guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Plato instilled that in me. My large family instilled that in me at supper times and getting out the door in the morning. So, you know, it's sort of, you've always been kind of having that mentality. And so when you have a player that has come in that, you know, you're going to have to spend a little bit more time on them accepting the culture, and because they are skilled and you've taken a little bit of a flyer on them. You know, when things go off the rail as a group or as a team, you know, you got to nip that stuff right away, otherwise, and let them know it's not accepted and this is the way it is here. And if you don't like it, the uniform can come back to me, and we can find somebody else to fill it. So we're very lucky. I was handed a really good program. I've been handed, you know, some good rules to live by and coach by, that the program is bigger than any player. And so even when you do sort of tend to take a flyer on a player that, you know, might have a difficult time fitting in early, the program, meaning the coaches, the athletic director, the demeanor, the culture, all that stuff sort of helps manage that kid in. And that is a goal when we have that situation. It doesn't happen very often because, like I said, we try to recruit properly, but it's bigger than them. And as soon as they figure that out, they're going to be fine.
And it's kind of like, too, it's kind of like dealing with kind of cancer or an ailment in real life. If you catch it early enough, you can correct it and it's not going to be fatal. If you let it go too long, it's going to kind of kill you from the inside out, whether you know it or not. And there's always going to be players that you take a flyer on that you think are going to be great fits, and maybe they don't turn out that way, and it's going to happen. And there's also going to be players that you think might be a bit more of a challenge, and they just gel right away. And I think that's the nature of the business, but I think is like, you've got it figured out. You've got your rules set, you know, your foundation's built. People are going to find their spot eventually. And you just, like you said, if it doesn't fit, there's going to be people waiting to fill that jersey. And you just kind of, again, like this year, just be flexible, take it as it comes. And if it doesn't work out, then you deal with it like adults and be humble and go whatever direction it takes you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've been, like I said, we've been really lucky. We've, I mean, I can count how many people have left our program prior to using their eligibility up over the last 10 years on one hand. So, and for some reasons may not even have any control over that. It just had to happen. But, so, yeah, like I said, it was given a good program. It was my responsibility to keep it a good program. I feel like it's, you know, we're doing the right things, and, you know, you always need a little bit of luck, but And
then off the court too afterwards. I know again, I was a couple months late on it. I'm going to apologize publicly so people
it's okay.
Looking at some of the alum that have now kind of gone on from the program to kind of forge their own path in coaching, just around high schools in kind of the Halifax area, you've got 6, if not more, but 6 that were in the article and then 2, again, Maria and Kate on your staff. For you, I guess first, how big of a focus is kind of that community involvement, giving back to kind of the community? How big of a focus within the program is that for you and the team and the staff?
It's a focus we want to put more on,
Mm-hmm.
with the mindset of making sure that we're balancing out the fact that these players are student athletes, students first. Some can balance things out incredibly well, some can't. I think it's important that that we introduce volunteering to them and taking on a role of giving back as soon as we can. A lot of these players, again, when you come back to recruiting, when you go back to look at what they bring prior to coming into the program, there's a big aspect of them, at their high schools where they're giving back or they're doing extracurricular stuff outside of sports. So,
Mm-hmm.
It's not all our doing. I mean,
Right.
it's I'd like to think it is, but it's not. Our university certainly is a social science school. So
Right.
first and foremost, so we have a tradition of giving back and having that responsibility. So that helps. But also the players coming in, having the background that they do helps. But, we speak to it and we want to make sure it's always there and it's front and center, that they are in the limelight and they have the ears and eyes of little ones that are watching them all the time. I always make sure the players know little eyes are watching you.
Right.
Little eyes are watching all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
be mindful of that when you're in the gyms and whether you're doing camps or leagues or whatever, or just hanging out after a game or waiting for a game. The little
Right.
eyes are watching. So, we're constantly speaking to it. Could we do more than we do? Of course. But again, it's a balancing act.
Right.
But we've had many programs where we've taken part on. We've done the shoebox program, which we collected personal items and put them in shoe boxes and gift wrap them for Christmas and take them down to the shelters.
Right. Yeah.
We were ready to partake in a toy drive here, but with some changes that are happening to the to the rules of engagement out there, that might have to be put on hold. We've done our part with SAMI, the Student Athlete Mental Health Initiative with Bell. We've run our leagues and we've done a lot of coaching out there in the club level. So I'm comfortable they get it. I wish I could do more. I am always trying to balance out their time and
Right.
pushing them to give more. So, it's important. It really is important. I have to give credit to my wife. She taught me a while back that it's, if you don't do it, who's going to do it?
Right.
So we speak to that a little bit, that it's your turn, it's your time. And at some point you're going to teach that to somebody else. So, but take advantage of the positions you're in and it feels good. Yeah. It feels good.
I think that's the big thing. At the end of the day, it feels good to know that you're having a positive impact on someone's life, whether it's big, small, whatever size it is. But I think there's always more we can do, I think. But I think the fact that you're doing anything is a big positive, because I know there's programs and people that don't do anything in the community. And so the fact that the girls are willing to kind of find a balance to even get out there once, or whatever their schedule entails, because I'm sure every player is going to have different schedules, balancing abilities, let alone the freedom and the desire to do it. But the fact that they're willing to get out there and be a part of so many fantastic initiatives is amazing. And obviously with COVID now, you said toy drive is going to take a hit too. And it's a shame that a lot of these initiatives can't go forward in full capacity because of the world we live in. But even just like the desire to participate and the fact that you would be there if it wasn't canceled, I mean, is doing a lot more than I think others are.
Well, again, if you follow along and people that have mentored me and taught me those things, again, you have a responsibility to make sure you're carrying it on. So, we've been lucky. We brought players into our program that have that kind of instilled in them already. So it's not a tough sell, but it's just more balancing the time and being respectful of the fact that they have a lot on their plate. So, and it is one of the things that we talk about when we're recruiting. You know, there's a lot of questions are, well, what's it like to be a typical life of being a varsity athlete? Well, you know, you speak to that a little bit, that everybody's tugging and pulling on you all the time to do this. And everybody wants their piece of you for the 2 hours they have. So you know, it's a tough balance. So
you get tugged a lot of different ways as a student athlete, whether it's community events for the college or the university, practice, games, study hall. Heaven forbid you try to work part-time while you go to school and be a student athlete. It's not as easy. It's not as glamorous, I think, as people on the outside think it is, because there's a lot of behind the scenes work that go into those 2-hour games twice a week or 3 times a week that people only see 6 hours of. They don't see the late nights, the study halls, the practice, the tears, the sweat, everything that goes into the 2 hours that are a spectacle twice a week.
Exactly.
One more for you off that before we get into the last one we ask everybody about growing the game. For you as a coach, how does it feel for you to see the players that you've kind of coached and mentored through their playing careers now kind of almost follow in your footsteps a little bit, get into the coaching industry? You've got Kelsey Clory at Charles P. Allen. You've got 3 at the Citadel. You've got Christina, Brianna, and Kara. Then you go to Dartmouth, and you have Marika and Madison. For you as a coach, what does it mean to kind of see them now forging their own path and now mentoring their own players in the next generation of players?
Well, I mean, there's a few changes to the girls that you just mentioned, just because it's another year later, but they're still out there doing their thing, just at different teams. Some of them are the same, but you know, it's obviously gratifying. Again, I think it has a lot to do with them too, like more to do with them. I mean, you kind of show them and lead, and then it's kind of up to them to decide whether they want to do it or not. But I think that has a lot to do with their experiences while they played, playing at a high level, the confidence to leave the game as a player and then know that you can teach it. And I think that speaks to a lot of, certainly a lot of going back to when I mentioned Kenny and our Yoda on the coaching staff, that, you know, he teaches it in a way, the fundamentals of the game, to see how it transfers to the game. And you know, his whole approach allows these players to, again, they have a great experience while they're there. They played it at a high level. They've got the foundation to be able to teach it. Playing and teaching are 2 different things. And then, you know, to be able to go out there and take on the stress of coaching high school. I mean, that's not something I would want to do, but, you know, and then be those role models. I mean, it's as gratifying as winning, really. I mean, I'm really proud of them. It's tough being in the gym when they're playing against each other, but, you don't want anyone to lose. But I mean, I'm sitting there, there's no way I can lose. I mean, I'm just watching 2 former players, you know, kind of instill in their players the things that they were taught. So, it's certainly a sense of pride, not just for me, but just for, you know, all our coaching staff and the university. So, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to watch them give it back.
And I think too, like I think that's one thing Canada does well across CCAA and youth sports is they put a big emphasis on kind of the student side of it and kind of preparing them for life after basketball, because at the end of the day, your results on the court don't really mean anything when you're done. So to see them now kind of taking those lessons that they learned from you, from Ken, from the rest of the staff, and then now take them and try to instill them in the younger players at high school, which I wouldn't want to do either. I mean, I look back to when I was in high school and that was a nightmare. Heaven forbid you try to coach in high school. But to see them now kind of taking the lessons that you learned or they learned from you and instill them while putting their own kind of unique spin on it, like you said, it's got to be kind of gratifying to see them kind of just doing their own thing and kind of passing on what they learned from you, which I guess kind of stuck and kind of worked. Right. So kind of something you're doing is kind of working, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that, I think it's very important that we have more young female coaches out there. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to make sure when I took this job, after I kind of settled into it 3 or 4 years into it,
right,
to mentor some younger female coaches to the point where, again, they can go out and be that role model for younger female players to come along and go, hey, gee, there's a lot of young female coaches out here. Maybe I can do that too. So
right.
That's kind of been an underlying sort of goal of our program too. So we're pretty happy about that.
It's one of those things that if you can't see it, the girls can't dream it. And there's not many, their numbers are growing, but there's not a lot of female, especially head coaches in the collegiate level or university level. But I think that number is certainly growing. And we're seeing now the CCAA with their female apprenticeship program, which Maria was a part of. And I think that's a fantastic initiative to get more women involved in coaching in whatever sport it is, to try and get more representation. And because there's fantastic minds out there.
Right.
And it's great to see it. I feel bad saying it like this, but it's great to see more happening, because I think it should have happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're making the progress that we should have already been, I guess. I don't think there's any way to
catch up.
Right. There's no real way to say what I'm trying to say without making it sound bad. But we're like you said it best. We're playing catch up to where we should be. And it's a shame.
It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time, but I mean, we have done some things and in my going to the national championships and even in our conference, like there's like, I think we have one female head coach in our conference now. And even on the national level, it's been spotty at best. And it's like, I don't understand it. I mean, there's some reasons I understand it, but I think what we're doing now, we're going to reap the benefit of this, maybe as few as 5 years from now, but maybe a little bit more. But, we got to keep that mentorship program up. And I think I see some great things going on right across the country.
Yeah. I'm just trying to do a quick count in my head of like women or female coaches that coach CCAA women's basketball. I think you've got Coach Smith out at Crandall for in the ACAA. Quebec, I don't know if there are any. OCAA's got 3, maybe 4. Pac West has none. So I think you're only at about 6 or 7.
Yeah, I don't like coaching against a female head coach. They scare me. I feel like I'm prepared a lot of the times, but when you come up against a female coach, it's tough to be out prepared with those. Right. It worries me. I have some PTSD against Julia. Oh boy, her last name escapes me. She was the head coach of Saint Foy there for the longest time. Right. She had a great run in the early 2000s. Everybody brings something different to the table. So why not?
Yep. Is there anything else you want to add in on your program, your career, anything else that we've touched on before we get into growing the game and continuing that theme of getting things caught up to where they should be?
No, I think we're good. Let's just carry on with the final question, I think.
All right. And we talked a bit before we came on about this one, and it's one I ask everybody at the end because, again, everybody is in different parts of the country. Everybody has different ideas, perspectives, experiences to draw on. And on that of catching up to where things should be, how do we get more people paying attention, talking about, I guess, lack of better term, respecting men's and women's basketball in the CCAA in youth sports? Because I think that like the attention level, the admiration, the respect, while it's going the right way, nowhere close to where it should be.
Mhm.
So are there any ideas, suggestions, thoughts that you have on what we can do to get those things to where they should have been a while ago?
Yeah, I mean, that's a podcast in itself, but I think first of all, I'd like to say I think we've come a long way,
Yep.
even certainly since I've been playing, and that was a
Mhm.
long time ago. Technology has changed
Yep.
our ability to reach to all gyms in all places of the world now, really.
Mhm.
So I think that has helped a ton. I think the numbers in the grassroots programs are blowing up, certainly on the
Yep.
female side locally here. The number of players is just exponentially growing. I think the Raptors and their recent success hasn't
Right.
hurt. I think
Mhm.
all of the draft picks going into the NBA from Canada, the WNBA, I mean, all those things in my mind have been able to grow the game.
Yep.
And maybe to the same point that we made with women and female coaching is that we're playing catch up, but I think it is definitely going in the right direction.
Right.
I think the ability to the coach education is another area that I think
Mhm.
is a focus, and you know, the ability to have Zoom and team meetings now over the internet, and you know,
Right.
not have to spend a ton of money to fly here, there, and everywhere to do a clinic and stuff like
Yep.
that, and to get on and share experiences like I'm sharing with you, to hear other coaches do that. Like
Mhm.
all that is growing the game,
Yep.
and it's all really important. I know locally here, um, it wasn't ideal as far as coach education goes,
Right.
and so you know, all that trickles down right to the grassroots stuff. But over the last probably 4 years, it's really stepped up, and it's been great. There's been a lot of ability to get online and learn from other people. And
Mhm.
just tonight, I'm going on another Zoom meeting for inclusion and diversity, which I'm really looking forward to because
Mhm.
it's being headed up by one of our former men's players.
Okay.
So we're really looking forward to listening to him. So I think all those things are part of it. I think obviously Four Quarters Media, you got to give yourself some credit. I mean, this is not a high paying position for you, I'm sure, but I mean the amount of time you're putting into this and spreading the word is crucial, and I don't think we have enough of that. So
Right.
and we talked about that, like
Mhm.
to have the wherewithal to say there's an appetite for it,
Yeah.
but there's no vehicle to do it. But
Mhm.
obviously, I really respect what you're doing for the game, coast to coast at all levels.
Mhm.
I mean, I just wish there were more ways to do these kind of things. But
Right.
you know, and even locally here, you know, when I look at some of the work that New Brunswick is doing with their, they have, oh, it's escaping me now, but they have the New Brunswick Hoops
Yep.
website,
Mhm.
and so that, you know, that's kind of the stuff that you wish every province was doing. And I
Right.
know most are. I don't know. We haven't really gotten there yet. So I would say that's
No.
one area I think Nova Scotia can maybe
Right. Yep.
you know, sort of step up on, maybe possibly PEI Newfoundland as well.
Yep.
But New Brunswick, they do a really nice job of promoting their players that have gone on to play at other levels, and all
Right.
the high school and all the everything. I mean,
Mhm.
it's all encompassing, and it's incredible. It's a great resource for recruiting, watching
Mhm.
recruits and stuff like that. So
Yep.
I don't know if you know Brad James there, but he does an
Yep.
incredible job of getting that up and running.
Yep.
There is talk about having a senior women's Atlantic basketball league here at some
Okay.
point in the next few years.
That'd
I
be
don't know if
good.
I'm supposed to speak to that yet, but
Ah.
I know there's talk about that. So
Yep.
I've been part of those talks as well. So that's another way to expose. I think one of the areas, though, that I find most frustrating is that we don't have a single platform that's standard across the country to stream games.
Right. Everybody's kind
So
of
when
doing their own thing.
everybody's all over the map, and you got to find them, and you got to find these guys, and like that. What you know, what what service provider are they using in the
Yep.
West, and then you have the Quebec and the language barrier in some
Right.
cases there. So I see that as an opportunity to standardize something if
Right.
it could ever be done
Yeah.
at both levels, CCAA and youth sport. Like,
Mhm.
let's just have one provider if we could do it. That might be a pipe dream, but
Hey.
very frustrating
Yep.
when you're trying to find games from other conferences and stuff.
Mhm.
So
One issue I have with the game film too is the archives, because sometimes
yeah,
once it's over, if you don't have kind of a Synergy account or Huddle or whatever that team uses,
mhm,
you can't go back and watch.
yeah,
And I've run into that with like Canada West has the paywall, so you have to pay to get it.
right,
And
right,
so if you don't pay, then you can't watch the games. And then the ACAC archives their games, but you can't watch them after the fact. Like once
yeah,
the season's done, they're gone.
mhm,
Um, yeah, there's a lot that, like I said, we're all in the right direction.
yeah,
Like we saw this year with COVID and the coaching development, you had the Cross Canada Coaches Clinic,
yeah,
which brought, I think, upwards of 60 coaches over 8 days. I think that's one of the positives that's come out of COVID, with the emphasis on technology, and now it's kind of closed or bridged a lot of those gaps that we had with the money to travel
mhm,
and everything else. And then uh, for me, like you said with this, for me, it was one of those things too, where it says, if you're going to do it, like why, if it's going to happen, why not do it? And I felt like if
right,
anybody was going to do something like this, why not do it myself? And uh, low pay and not paying enough would be an understatement. I don't do like, I don't
yeah,
make money off it. And never came into it with the intention to make money off it, because
mhm,
to me it's fun.
yeah,
And if it goes that way down the road, great. If it doesn't,
mhm,
still doing what I can to kind of get the attention to where it should be. And I think
mhm,
if more people kind of see it that way and don't expect the immediate returns right away, then we're going to be better off for it.
mhm,
But like you said, there just needs to be more. Brad and MB Hoops Report does a fantastic job with the province. It would be nice to
mhm,
see that uh, across the board, all 10
yeah.
provinces. And if you want to get adventurous, go to the 3 territories, and why not?
Yeah.
There too.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, more really is all it really comes down to. But I do feel like it's in a good position right now. I think growth, like I said, at the grassroots levels here
Hmm.
is at an all-time high. Retention's good, healthy. I think too, though, on the East Coast in particular, our facilities could be upgraded
Right.
somewhat. I think we have, we're we're Canada. We're a winter
Right.
sport, and we lack the field houses, and with some of the places you go to, whether in the U.S. or even outside of the Atlantic region, some of the facilities that are being built and played in is incredible. Like, and you're sitting there going, well, we need about 10 of these,
Hmm.
and so
Right.
I think that's another area that you need to give the kids an opportunity to go play and just play pickup and learn
Right.
the game at that kind of a level, as opposed to structure. Well, when it's mid-January
Yeah.
and the doors are locked, the gyms are there, and the schools and stuff, you can't use them. But the big complexes, the like the Canada Game Centers and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I think that's another area I'd like to see kind of addressed.
Yeah. Just bring the fun back to it a bit, and just
Yeah,
play for fun. Don't be like, especially in the summer, don't, or in the
yeah,
off season, don't play structured basketball 365 days of the year.
mm-hmm.
Grab some friends and go play on
Yeah,
a hoop on the street,
yeah,
or play a different sport altogether.
yeah,
And to
exactly.
take yourself away from the game for a week, 2 weeks, a month, just to, rest your body, try something else, and then come back and enjoy it. Because if you do the same thing
Mhm.
all year, you're going to lose the fun after a while,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're going to start to hate it after a bit, and you don't want that.
yeah, yeah. No, we don't. The sport doesn't need you to hate it. That's for
No.
sure. So I think just like I said, to sum it up, I think we just need more of everything, and I think
Mhm.
more of what you're doing, and and that whole platform of watching games across the country, keep it a little bit simpler, and then get the facilities built where they need to be built. And I think we'll just continue to grow.
Yeah. I think more people doing this would benefit me immensely. My sleep schedule is not existent anymore, I don't think. But I mean, I don't think it's for everybody. And I mean, it's just fun for me. Like, that's the main theme, is just have fun with it. And like, I enjoy talking to anybody really from across the country, because there's so many stories, there's so many perspectives on things, and you can talk about realistically whatever you want. But it puts a lot of people and programs in a spotlight that may never really get it, because there's just not enough of it.
There's no, I know we were talking the other day with the athletic director of Dartmouth High School, who was a former alum of the Mount, and he was promoting some of the stories that the local papers should be writing, since a lot of the sports are kind of on hold. Let's take an opportunity to highlight some of these things we haven't had a chance to, because we've been filled with the hockey and the basketball at the pro levels. And there's some interesting things, like just my youngest son now is playing with Derek's youngest son, Derek McDermott, who I replaced at the Mount. They're teammates at their high school.
That's cool.
And there's tons of those. Dartmouth High women's and men's team on like crazy 60-0 runs, and it just there's just, those are the kind of things we got to get out there, just that stuff that people can relate to.
So many human interest stories that go untold over collegiate careers that need and deserve the light that they don't get, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any last words from you? Anything else you want to throw in there? I'll kind of put you on the spot. Leave any last words to you before we wrap it up and get you back to your what is it today? Wednesday afternoon. They all blend together at this point.
Yeah. Well, this has been a crazy year. 2020 has seemed to have about 42 months in it, and I don't know if it's ever going to end, but hopefully we can get back to doing what we love. In the meantime, we got to do these things to keep people engaged, look after your athletes. They're going to need us more than ever. It's a time for great leadership, and not sitting around going, oh well, I don't have the practice plan, and I don't have to worry about travel and all that stuff. Find a way to take care of your athletes. I think they're really need us right now, and really just try to get them through this tough time, and then hopefully before too long we'll be back out bouncing the ball and pivoting on the right with the right word. We'll
get back to the right pivots, or the pivots that we want to have sooner than later, if we can all just kind of do our part and follow the restrictions as best we can, and we'll get back there some day soon. I hope. But I want to thank you, Mark, for doing this. This was a ton of fun, and we've had quite a bit of communication back and forth over the last year or so. So really appreciate the time, and anytime you want to come back and do it again, there's always a spot here for you. And if there's ever anything I can do for the program, I promise it'll be quicker than the last one, which was way too long.
That's okay. Listen, you're busy, lots of jobs. Anyway, I do appreciate the opportunity as well, Tyler. Keep up the good work. We need several of you out there, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak about our program and the Mount. And thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
Likewise, you as well.